Hi, I'm Tom D. In this lesson, I want to tell you about how to delete, stream, write, index in Elasticsearch. Let's start. First step is to start Elasticsearch. In the article on toughcoding.net, you can find the section Start Elasticsearch Cluster. Copy that commands and execute them in a terminal. If there is an error about network with name already exists, that's fine, it means that you created it already. The most important is the hash for that container name, because this means container is started. You can confirm that running docker ps. As you can see, the container is up and running. Now you need to set up the password for Elastic user, because otherwise you won't be able to log in, you won't be able to use API calls to Elasticsearch. In this example, there is a command to set up the password 123456, and that's fine for the testing purposes. Copy that command, go to the terminal and execute it. As you can see, the password for the Elastic user successfully reset. Clear up the space. Now I can tell you about the next step. Next step is to create the new user. This is because you need special permission allow restricted indices assigned to that role. So if you create the role deleter, for example, deleter, it can be anything, but in this case, I name it deleter, you add this special permission to allow restricted indices as true. And then in the next step, you assign this role to the new user del. For example, del, it can be anything, but let's say it's deal. So this allow restricted indices will allow this user to operate on the restricted indices, like for example, delete them. The user Elastic doesn't have this permission as a default. That's why I'm showing you to create this special role and user. So let's do this. Copy that command to create the role first. Execute it in the terminal. As you can see, the response is role created as true. Then execute the second command to create the user with that role assigned to it. Password for the user can be the same, doesn't matter right now. The user is created, as you can see, the response created as true. I can show you the next step. Now is the time to create data stream, because data stream will contain the indexes to read and indexes to write underneath. In this example, I rely on the deprecation logs that are created whenever you are using deprecated functionality. When you look back at the Start Elasticsearch Cluster command, you used cluster deprecation indexing enabled as true option, which is important because it enables indexing all the deprecation usage into Elasticsearch index instead of just writing them down to the log file on the file system. When you create such index, nothing will happen yet, but let's create it. So index is created. But now when you execute the second API call, it's using deprecated functionality, which is ignore total as true. It can be false, but ignore total is a keyword here because this is deprecated functionality for that Elasticsearch version. This is since 7.16. As you can see, you're using 8.15 here in this example. So if you execute it, the new data stream will be created. You can verify it, for example, here. Before executing that command, you can copy this cat indices API call. You can copy that and execute it. As you can see, there is no response. Even I can delete a little bit here. DS logs, there is no data stream that is named as DS logs and deprecation in Elasticsearch. It's empty results here. No such data stream or index is present in Elasticsearch. But now when you execute this command, you can see the index is created here. And this is an index that is part of the data stream. So now what if you want to delete such index? That I want to show you in the next step. In this step, I want to show you how to delete writable index linked to the data stream. So now when you start this command, roll over, it will create the new write index, so the old one can be deleted. So you run this query, yes. As you can see, the old index, the one that you listed before, over here, is marked as old index. At the same time, the new index is created with higher sequential number as suffix, right here. You can see rolled over as true, dry run is false because it was executed with action. Yeah, so it's done. Now you can perform your delete call. So you can copy that command, place it in a terminal, but you need adjustment. As you can see, the name changed. This is the name that contained the date, like 5th of September. Here was the 21 of January, so let's replace that 05 and here 9. So that's how the current index name is acknowledged as true. You can execute the same query that you executed at the beginning to list the logs of deprecation. As you can see, only the 002 index is present with such name. The old index that was here, that was rolled over, is not present anymore. So now if you want to, for example, use the same API and delete the 002, illegal argument exception reason index is the right index for data stream. So you cannot delete that 002 index. But if you run again, roll over for that data stream, you will get the message that the old index is here, 002, and the new is 004. So now, if you run again this, but we can also check before deleting, we can also check the list of indexes. So as you can see, you can have two indexes here that are behind this data stream is 002 and 004. So you can now delete 002 index, the second one, and list again, and you have only one index. So this is the way to delete indexes that are writable under the data stream. First, you need to roll over to create a new index, and then you are allowed to delete the old index. It's important to mention that you need this special permission assigned to your user. The special permission is here when you create the new role or you change the role for your current user. You need to have this allow restricted indices as true. Otherwise, you won't be able to delete it even after rollover. In this lesson, we have learned how to delete writable index behind the data stream. Now you can use it in your project. Because I want you to learn more about Elasticsearch, I prepared for you a special courses that covers more of the tips and tricks on Elasticsearch. It is something that I collected throughout the years, the best tips and tricks that will improve your productivity in Elasticsearch in your day-to-day work. Check them out and enjoy. Have a nice coding. Bye.